This is Maxwell Street, one of the largest open-air markets in the world. It's dawn and the vendors have started to set up their tables and display their merchandise, just as they have for over a century. Customers are starting to arrive.
When the sun comes up Sunday morning, this street transforms itself into a regular European bazaar. We're talking thousands of people and almost 1,000 sellers are here ready at sunrise. So when the sun comes up, it's showtime.
The smell of hot dogs, grilled onions, and barbecued ribs drift through the air. The sounds of haggling and chatter, noisy radios, and live music create a symphony in the heart of a ghetto.
Best socks in Chicago, right here. The best, the best.
Pásenle a comer, pásenle.
Pop top, Polish sauce, a hot dog, hamburger,
Chile, recién cortó 75 la libra.
Tires, hubcaps. Need his hubcaps?
And you are invited to have a chicken shoot tonight.
Come on, $1. Come on, $1. Step right up. No wait.
As usual, the market is crowded on this hot afternoon on Chicago's west side. People of all races and backgrounds mingle together in the Sunday ritual of wheeling and dealing and listening to the blues. Although there's the usual friendliness between Maxwell Street regulars, everyone knows it will soon be gone. Over the years, Maxwell Street has become run down. Many say that's because city insiders no longer wanted the market, but saw this neighborhood as an underutilized real estate opportunity. The strategy, many believe, has been to let Maxwell Street become an eyesore, so that city officials could condemn the area and sell it, to maximize its true real estate value and revenue for the city. But it wasn't always that way. In its heyday, Maxwell Street was a magnificent open-air bazaar. It all started back in 1871 with the Great Chicago Fire, which ripped through the city, leaving over 100,000 people homeless, an entire third of Chicago's population. Since Maxwell Street was one of the few areas spared by the fire, Chicagoans migrated into this once desolate area to rebuild their lives. From its earliest conception, Maxwell Street was a refuge for the downtrodden, a haven for the homeless. Maxwell Street got its name from Dr. Philip Maxwell, a local surgeon, known for his gracefulness mounting and dismounting a horse. The Maxwell Street neighborhood became an arrival point for immigrants from all over the world, the Ellis Island of the Midwest. At the turn of the 19th century, over 2 million Jewish immigrants came to America to escape a growing anti-Semitism in Russia and Eastern Europe. During a 20-year period from about 1880 to 1900, over 50,000 Jews arrived in Chicago by train. Chicago had become the greatest center of railroad transportation in the world, with 400 trains rolling in and out of Chicago daily. Most of the Jewish settlers stepped off the train and went right to Maxwell Street, where there were already many synagogues and kosher food stores. The Jews assimilated immediately and began selling produce from pushcarts. The pushcart trade became so big that a market master was appointed by the city to regulate the heavy pushcart traffic. Maxwell Street had once again become a refuge for people looking to create a better life. Other immigrant groups had already settled into the area. The German, the Irish, the Poles, the Scandinavians, the Greeks, the Italians, and Bohemians. Later came the Latinos, the Gypsies, the Asians. Maxwell Street encompassed a colorful mix of cultures coexisting in one small area. The population around Maxwell Street started to boom, and by 1900 it got so large that if the rest of Chicago had been as densely populated as Maxwell Street, it would have been 15 times its size. With more and more immigrant groups coming into this already overpopulated and impoverished area, rivalry among ethnic street gangs was fierce. Years later, big-time gangsters like Al Capone tried to gain a presence on Maxwell Street. The local police were so wary of the mob that when Los Angeles underworld kingpins Mickey Cohen and Johnny Stompanato appeared on Maxwell Street, they were taken in for questioning for several hours on a hastily trumped-up charge and advised to leave town, which they did immediately. By the mid-1900s, Maxwell Street was at its peak. Poor people serviced the rich with high-end specialty items. This was the precursor to the modern-day shopping mall, and it became the third highest shopping district in Chicago, grossing $1 to $2 million a month in sales. Numerous artists and intellectuals visited Maxwell Street over the years because it possessed something exciting and spontaneous. It was a creation of the people, a microcosm of humanity. Simone de Beauvoir, the French writer, feminist, and lifelong partner of philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, once visited the Maxwell Street Market in 1947. After arriving here at the behest of her then transatlantic lover, Chicago writer Nelson Algren. After witnessing the Maxwell Street extravaganza, Madame de Beauvoir wrote in her diary,
"On the edge of the Black, Greek, and Italian neighborhoods, we discover, by chance, one of the biggest markets I have seen since the Jelma El Fna Square in Marrakesh. Chicago has suddenly become an exotic village, hot and colorful, the way I imagine San Francisco. A mix of all the civilizations and races that have existed throughout time and space. In the hands of merchants, preachers, and charlatans, the snares sparkle and the street is full of the chatter of thousands of brightly feathered birds."
Nelson Algren often visited the market, and he loved the people and the color. He once brought along his friend, Marcel Marceau, the famous French mime.
Chicago's Maxwell Street was special. There were schleppers, as they're called, and they use in German, too, the word schlepper. It's someone who pulls you into a place. See. In Germany, in Hamburg, for example, which is a port city, and many Scandinavian sailors are there and they're drunk, and schleppers pull them into the girly houses, you know. In Maxwell, you pull them into the clothing houses, and of course the push carts outside.
One of the businesses that made Maxwell Street famous was Vienna sausages, now called Vienna beef. In 1893, two young Hungarian immigrants, Samuel Ledany and Emil Reichel, came to the World's Fair and Columbian Exposition in Chicago to debut their new Frankfurter recipe at an event hosting over 27 million visitors. It is here that the Polish sausage sandwich was introduced to the world. Later, the two entrepreneurs bought a storefront just around the corner from Maxwell Street, where they prepared and sold their sausages. Vienna beef stayed in the Maxwell Street area until 1972, when they moved to Chicago's North Side. The Maxwell Street, or Jewtown Polish, as it was often called, was the hallmark of Jim's Original at the corner of Maxwell and Halsted. Jimmy Stefanovic, a Russian immigrant who came to Chicago from Yugoslavia, purchased the building and started his business in 1939, and it continued as a family-operated business until it was torn down.
To the day that my father passed away, everybody on this street thought he was Jewish, because he used to speak with the merchants in Jewish, but he also spoke 9 different languages, so he was able to communicate with the people. So it's a hot dog, hamburger, cheeseburger, double dog, double Polish, double chops, double ham, and double cheeseburgers. Step right up. No wait.
Here is where the Maxwell Street Polish was born. It's become so popular nationwide that hot dog vendors throughout the country have adopted the name Maxwell Street Polish, a grandfather to the Chicago-style hot dog, which has a fancier, more elaborate garnish.
Okay, can you tell us show us how to make a Maxwell Polish? Sure.
Put mustard, put the Polish, put the onions, then you put the peppers, you wrap it up, you got a Maxwell Street Polish waffle.
Several Maxwell Street residents also made their mark on American history. Paramount Pictures president in the 1930s, Barney Balaban. CBS president, William S. Paley. Jazz clarinetist and band leader, Benny Goodman. Lee Oswald assassin, Jack Ruby. Prizefighter Barney Ross, one of the greatest Jewish boxers of the 20th century. Admiral Hyman Rickover, the father of the atomic sub. Supreme Court Justice Arthur Goldberg, and infomercial icon Ron Popeil.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you the greatest kitchen appliance ever made.
Fisherman's handle is its own mini tackle box. Just flip up the special DuPont nylon.
Hey, good looking. We'll be back to pick you up later.
I got one.
I got one.
I got one.
I got one.
Fabulous time with Mr. Microphone, the cordless microphone.
Between 1910 and 1930, the northern states saw its black population rise about 20%. A boll weevil infestation in the south had almost wiped out the cotton industry, leaving thousands of black field workers unemployed. World War I had closed foreign immigration, and with many of our men gone to war, there was a demand for workers in the industrialized North. Racism and lynching were also common in the South, and the North offered an escape from hatred and persecution. The migration to the North by African Americans continued throughout the Depression. Despite the promise of a better life in the North, many African Americans were disheartened when they arrived in Chicago. They had fled southern states to escape racism, but arrived here only to encounter a similar bigotry in the most segregated city in America. But there was one place in Chicago where Southern blacks were welcome: Maxwell Street. Just as it did for Jewish immigrants before them, Maxwell Street provided a refuge from poverty and prejudice, this time the racism of the South. Several businesses were formed from the integration between blacks and Jews. Food, culture, and language were also exchanged. One such business was the well-known delicatessen near the corner of Maxwell and Halsted, Nate's Deli. In 1947, a young African-American boy, Nate Duncan, whose family came to Chicago during the Great Migration, found a job working at Lyons Deli on Maxwell Street. He was eager to learn the kosher food business and even learn to speak fluent Yiddish. Nate became like a family member to the Lyons, so much so that the owner, Ben Lyon, handed his business over to Nate when he retired.
I learned from his mother how to cook a lot of Jewish foods, pickled herring and stuff of that nature, most of the Jewish foods at that time. And I just watched her when I was a kid, and I learned how to make it through watching her. Most of my life, I've been around Jewish food, so that's mostly what I've eaten all my life was Jewish food, yeah. I even got black people eating pickled herring now, which is unusual. Yeah, they love it.
Nate's Deli exemplified interracial harmony and cultural sharing between blacks and Jews, which typified Maxwell Street.
They got along good. They got along. Look, let me tell you one thing. You don't know this, but I do. The average black man, more or less you find here, got anything, he got it from a Jew.
It's like a big family, a street family. Somebody watches your back, watches your stuff. The vendors watches your back.
Maxwell Street was a home, and vendors looked out for each other. With only 2 police officers patrolling the area, street justice was the norm. Here, a vendor has just caught a man stealing from him and has knocked him to the ground with a punch. Notice how they help him to his feet and send him on his way. While the thief doesn't seem deterred, it's doubtful he'll ever visit this vendor again. If you ever had something stolen, you could usually find it down on Maxwell Street. It was known as a place where thieves would often unload stolen goods, and it was even purported that some Chicago police officers took payoffs from the tires and hubcaps dealer to look the other way. Some even alleged that the police unloaded their own stolen items there.
I've been here 41 years.
What do you do here?
I enjoy myself. I enjoy myself and I love it. So when this is over, I won't have no more inspiration.
What kind of things do you sell?
Anything I get a hold to, valuable.
And where do you get it?
Any way I can.
Okay, now since we're on the subject, a lot of people say that Maxwell Street is the home of stolen goods.
Yeah, well, maybe it might be. It might be. I don't know nothing about it. I don't know whether it's the home of the stolen goods or not. As long as I can get it and sell it.
What really happened was more and more people came in with stolen goods that they thought were stolen, at least. And I'm talking about if they got a truckload of merchandise somewhere, they would try to bring it down to Maxwell Street because that was a good place to sell it. I had a friend of mine who had a collection of cufflinks. I think he had about 1,000 pairs of cufflinks, and somebody broke in and stole his cufflinks. Well, he was smart enough to go down on Maxwell Street and find his cufflinks. He had to buy them back, but he got his cufflinks back.
The store Cheat You Fair was famous on Maxwell Street, not only because of its central location, but because it encapsulated the spirit of bargaining that went on there, with both the buyer and vendor looking to get the edge.
And the guy's motto was, you know, let me cheat you, but let me cheat you fair.
By 1950, few Jewish families remained at Maxwell Street. Most of the original Jewish store owners had moved their expanding businesses throughout the city and elsewhere. But the name Jewtown, which was adopted as a term of familiarity and endearment by black people at Maxwell Street, existed until the end.
Everybody in my neighborhood and all over Chicago, no disrespect for Jewish people, but they called it Jewtown.
For decades, Maxwell Street had been the Ellis Island of the Midwest. But now, with the migration of blacks from the South, it was becoming the New Orleans of the North.
I went down Alberta House.
When Europeans arrived at Maxwell Street, they brought with them the tradition of the outdoor market. When the blacks arrived from the South, they brought with them outdoor music of all kinds, country, blues, and gospel. Playing for whatever tips people would leave in their cups, bluesmen came to Maxwell Street and lined the streets just to play in front of an audience.
Most all of you musicians, when they first come to Chicago, they would come down here and play on a Sunday because this was the place where the owners would be out hunting artists for their place. So you come down here and work on a Sunday, you always would get gigs from it.
In Jewtown here, they had musicians that were different type of musicians from the later type. They had guys who played tubs for a bass, at a tub with a broom handle and a rope. And another guy, he'd be blowing a jug for a bass, like a big brown jug. Then you had some guys playing banjos and violins and mandolins. And then we had the washboard players.
The music played on Maxwell Street was so distinct, it became known as the Maxwell Street School of Blues. These were the songs of urban bluesmen that had hoboed around the country and had come up hard.
Now, I'm going to tell you how the blues was born. We come up the hard way. We was a slave here for 400 years. We come up the hard way. And a blues is the way you feel. I have sung the blues and shed tears. Because you feel sorry for yourself, and you're being mistreated. And the black man, that's why the blues come from him. He sung as he felt. He had a hard time. And he could go back and dig up the blues. Why? Because he lived it. He lived it.
Born Johnny Watson, Daddy Stovepipe was a regular at Maxwell Street. A veteran of the old medicine shows in the 20s, Stovepipe was one of the first blues harp players ever to record. He later played with his wife, Mississippi Sarah.
Once in a while, the cops would clamp down on blues, but they couldn't clamp down on gospel, so the Daddy Stovepipe would become the Reverend, I think I just remembered his name, Reverend Johnny Watson, and he would conduct church services. But he said that there had been a very lively blues scene here as far back as he could remember, and he had been here since World War I. He felt it had preceded World War I by maybe 20 years or something. So people who think the blues suddenly happened in 1910 or 1920, I think are very wrong about that.
By the 30s, the blues at Maxwell Street was approaching its golden era. The streets were a training ground for young musicians, as well as the place to get discovered. Maxwell Street was the center for blues talent anywhere.
There's so many musicians that used to make a living down here playing on the streets. You know what I mean? They was making more money down here, collecting, putting the hat down and putting it in there. You had to wash the hat to have somebody to watch it with you, so nobody wouldn't come along and grab it and run away with it. And everybody, a lot of musicians made their life down here. You know what I mean?
In the 40s and 50s, huge crowds infiltrated the area, and musicians lined up on both sides of the street.
Maxwell Street is the backbone of a lot of music that you hear because people learn on Maxwell Street. They went to school, they schooled themselves. I was there.
But I came to this college because I liked that some of the professors was in this college, which was Howlin' Wolf, Little Walter, Muddy Waters, Sonny Boy, Jimmy Rogers Jr. I could run out of tape with you if you want me to, you know.
With the leaves run across the highway, he's where it feast keeps moving around the bend.
Jimmy Lee Robinson, nicknamed the Lonely Traveler, was born and raised on Maxwell Street. By age 11, he was playing on street corners for tips.
We played on the streets. We didn't have no money. We wasn't trying to get no recognition. We wasn't trying to get no records out. We did it because we lacked it. This was our way of life, and this was the place where we went. This is where we hanging out at in Jewtown.
Born in Louisiana in 1906, Johnny Williams come up hard. But music became his devotion from an early age.
I didn't have no teacher. I taught myself. It was born in me for what I did. I loved it, that music. My wife and 2 kids, she got tired of me being gone all the time. She told me, said, it's me or the guitar. I went and bought a brand new Gibson and separated.
Uncle Johnny, as he later became known, was part of the transition from acoustic country blues to electric urban blues. The crowds became so big at Maxwell Street that in order to be heard, musicians started to amplify their instruments. Necessity became the mother of invention, and a new genre of music was born, the electrified urban blues. Robert Nighthawk and his band typified the early electric sound on Maxwell Street.
Yeah, this is a place where guys who came to town, if somebody would hit them to it, they could come down here and set up somewhere. Maybe give somebody 50 cents to plug in their amp if they had an amp. Of course, in the early days, probably the music wasn't amplified till maybe the late 30s. The late 30s, they'd go buy a radio and have a guy fix it up so they could play through the radio.
Me and Earl Hooker, we came down here on Maxwell Street, and then right over there where the stands over there across in front of the restaurant, used to be an upstairs building over there. And we used to pay like $5 to the guy, and he'd take the extension cord, put it out the window for you.
The big band era had faded, and a new style of music was introduced to the public, featuring the guitar, bass, harmonica, drums, and a lead vocalist, usually male. The blues became so hot around Maxwell Street that local Jewish entrepreneurs, who knew nothing of the music, partnered with black artists to record and sell this new phenomenon. Maxwell Street saw the birth of its own record label, Ornell Records, a makeshift recording studio named after the girlfriend of Otham Brown, Little Walter's guitarist. Ornell turned out some of the earliest Maxwell Street blues recordings and helped launch the careers of some of our greatest blues giants. Ornell was owned by Bernard Abrams, who was born on Maxwell Street. Abrams was a tough Jewish businessman with one eye, a product of the streets. He had amassed an entire square block of stores and residential buildings and was the man everyone in the neighborhood went to when they had a problem. Ornell operated right in the Maxwell Radio, TV, and Record Mart, where radios, TVs, and other appliances were sold and repaired. Inside, there was a small booth with green Army-issued recording gear, where musicians could play into a microphone and record their demo discs. Muddy Waters, Little Walter, and other Maxwell Street artists recorded there. In fact, this is where Muddy Waters claims he played on Maxwell Street, busking, right here on the sidewalk outside of Ornell. Despite the many recordings made in his shop, Abrams' label only released 5 songs, according to his daughter Fern. All of the original Ornell recordings were destroyed when the store burned down in a fire. Ornell is another example of the partnerships that developed between blacks and Jews on Maxwell Street, this time one forged to propel black artistry. Without Jewish entrepreneurs like Bernard Abrams, Maxwell Street artists would not have been able to make records and develop their music at this crucial period. Without Jews, the blues would not be what it is today. Little Walter Jacobs is often cited as the most influential blues harmonica player who ever lived. Walter taught himself how to play when he was 8 years old, and at 12, he ran away from home in rural Louisiana to play with his band in the streets of New Orleans. By the mid-40s, Little Walter was drawn to Chicago's Maxwell Street, the place where the blues was red hot. Little Walter recorded his first album at 17. He was a renegade, a wanderer, a completely self-made artist, and he continued to play at Maxwell Street even after he was famous. The street money was just too good to pass up. In his later years, Little Walter played on Maxwell Street, but with a guitar instead of a harmonica, as seen here in this photo. He didn't want to risk getting recognized by everyone and losing his price at the clubs. His brilliant rise to fame playing with Muddy Waters and later touring with the Rolling Stones was cut short by drinking and a violent undoing. When he was just 37, Little Walter died of head injuries he suffered in a street fight after an argument with a rowdy patron at one of his gigs in a Chicago nightclub. Little Walter was the first artist to ever play the harmonica by cupping it next to the microphone. He was also the first to use amplified distortion, the same thing Jimi Hendrix mastered on the guitar years later. While blues legend Muddy Waters enjoyed the Maxwell Street scene, playing there for money wasn't for him. Muddy claimed that he only played on the street to promote his records, a practice called busking, and often prohibited his band members from performing on Maxwell Street.
Muddy Waters, he wouldn't play down here because he said that, he was too proud to do the thing, I said, well, you be proud, but not me. I just come down here and play and buy things that I needed to have, because union scales were about $12.50. And said, I'm knocking down so much it was pathetic, Sometimes we come down here and make $400 and $500 together, me and Walter and Jimmy Rogers and people like that, But Muddy, he wouldn't do it, so it was great to me.
Though many blues recording stars, like Muddy, have tried to disassociate themselves with the market because they wanted to be viewed as legitimate recording artists and not street performers. In fact, Muddy's estate claims he never played there.
I'm gonna have all you women.
The truth is that Maxwell Street was the place to get discovered and make a steady income, and no blues artist would pass up that kind of money.
Muddy Waters and Wolf and them came here around the late 40s, almost into the 50s. Junior Wells and all of them, Wolf. But Little Walter was here already here in the 40s, the early 40s. Little Walter was here. Moody Jones was here. Floyd Jones was here. These were the main guys I'm talking about that played in Jewtown. They were the main Jewtown boys.
The music of these streets influenced an entire generation of rock groups, from the Rolling Stones to Cream to Led Zeppelin, who reworked the Willie Dixon song, You Need Love, sung by Muddy, into their hit song, Whole Lotta Love.
You have songwriters, guys got pads, walking up and down that street and see them writing.
Stealing people's songs.
Yeah.
Musicians would come from all the world just to come down on Sunday to hear the blues.
Oftentimes, artists would play at a local club on a Saturday night until dawn, then walk over to Maxwell Street as the sun was rising and perform there all day.
People would dance, they'd be kicking up the dust, and people would be, some would be drunk from the night before, and these would be gamblers and hookers and real nightlife, hardcore partying type people. So from that Sunday playing on the streets of Maxwell Street, you might have a gig that night, and then the next morning have that Blue Monday breakfast show somewhere where you could actually get something to eat too. Scrambled eggs and bacon and a little bourbon. Maybe bourbon on your cornflakes.
Even though the music of Maxwell Street greatly influenced and accelerated the growth of rock and roll, it remained the home of the original urban blues, even to the very end.
I've heard about Maxwell Street, you know, I don't know, from being in a blues band in Boston, you know. And I heard they were going to tear it down. One of my friends is a sax player back there, told me about that. He said, you got to go check it out before it's gone. So I came down, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear some really great music. I mean, I've been all over the city looking for real true, you know, the real thing, blues. And, you know, there's a lot of mixture, you know, there's a lot. I didn't find any of the old stuff until I came here. And it was great, and getting to sit in with those guys, it was like highlight of my trip. Today is the highlight of my trip, and I've been here for a week.
I don't think, I mean, if it hadn't been for Maxwell Street, maybe Chicago blues wouldn't be that important, like the home of the blues, right there. The beginning of the blues in Chicago, right there.
Maxwell Street in its final days continued on, just as it had for over a century.
We get here at 6 o'clock Saturday morning, and we start loading up the trucks to set the tables out for the flea market, which runs on Sunday morning through Sunday afternoon. And we're finished at 6 o'clock in the evening. And we lock up all the equipment and park the trucks, and that's it.
This is the one. You don't have to wash that automobile. But look.
How long have you been down on Maxwell Street?
A few years.
How long?
A couple years.
No, longer than that. I saw a film.
I don't remember.
I saw a film that was shot in 1964, and I think it was you that was in it. Young guy with greased back hair, same quarters, selling socks. Is that you?
I don't remember.
You've been here for at least 30 years, haven't you?
I don't remember. I can't remember.
Now, rumor has it that you actually made a lot of money selling socks.
Not me. It's not true.
I don't see why people don't want to save money here. It's unbelievable.
Glass just easy.
It's a little hard to break, so you put a pen pointer matchstick right where the wheel came off. You press it and get it apart.
Well, I'm known as the mayor of Jewtown. That's what people call me around here, or Mr. Maxwell. Sort of like the caretaker of the neighborhood, and make sure that, do my best to make sure that the business area, part of Maxwell, from Newberry to Union is clean, and up and down Halsted is clean. I have private businesses that'll pay me. Not everybody pays me, but so I do a lot of stuff for free, and I clean around some of the U of I properties as well, just to keep things clean. I make sure potholes get filled, sewers get cleaned, potholes filled, whatever needs to be done so the area is not neglected. It's a historical area of the city, and it should be treated with respect, I think.
Para nosotros es muy importante esto de vender, dar y recibir, porque nosotros no nada más vendemos nuestro producto, sino también vamos adquiriendo cada día nuevos amigos.
¿Qué le pones? Salsa, cilantro, cebolla.
How long have you two been here?
Too long.
Since 1978.
78? Selling furs?
Selling furs.
How'd you get in the fur business?
Huh?
Through my sister.
Through your sister? How do you like being down here?
Some days I do and some days I don't.
Why the marketplace, and why not just set up a store someplace?
I did have.
You did have.
Time I paid my mortgage, my gas, my light, my heat, the fire insurance, the liability insurance, and the taxes, I was done.
What's your light in there?
That's innocent.
Why?
Up to the see me. I just joined it.
You coming over there? How many you got?
About 20. I need 100 to make some money. No, I sell it, but I just sold the last pack. I sell them too.
I spotted 100 and 100 and 101. Come on by, see what you
Now you do this every week. You get the incense and you burn them.
I burn them and I sell them. See, they smell it and they like it.
Yeah. What are you selling?
Just socks, that's all. $5 a dozen.
$5 a dozen?
$5 a dozen.
How long have you been here?
Since 1971.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been out here about 30-some years.
So good?
Yeah, that's all I do.
How's business been?
To me, I don't make that much. If I make you $30, I've done fine.
See, I wasn't born here. I came here. I came here from Mississippi. And this is where I landed at. Second day after getting here to Jewtown.
I was born down here, 15th to Peoria.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been coming
right at home.
You've been coming here since you were a little kid?
Yeah, since I was a baby.
What are your earliest memories about Maxwell Street like?
Oh, everything. My great-great-great-grandfather used to sell snowballs right down there over there. Really? And I remember Harry's over there selling the shoes.
Make sure you get paid from it.
Being paid is not the issue. The issue is trying to save. If all of them would act like we would act, they would be better people.
I'm from Colombia. We come to Maxwell Street every Sunday. This is our religion. We love Maxwell Street because it's a poetry. It's an art gallery of human beings, of spontaneity. It's the only place where you can throw garbage and you don't feel guilty. There are prostitutes, gay members, old ladies with integrity. There is everything. Maxwell Street is the only point alive. It's an art gallery of everything you want. You can buy here snakes, cars, plane tickets.
I travel a lot and I go to markets in different countries that I go to. And this is a fabulous market, and I like the mix of people. That's really what I like. Plus, you can get really good bargains sometimes. But mainly, I like all the different ethnic groups, the way people get along, the liveliness of it. I mean, where else can you go where you get this kind of atmosphere? So I just think it's really important, and I like it.
Johnny Dollar, what do you do?
Sell chicken and catfish, soul food. Sell soul food.
Sell soul food?
Yeah.
How long have you been here on Maxwell Street?
About 40 years.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are you going to do when they move?
Yeah, I got to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something. I got to make that dollar, you know. I don't make that dollar, it's something wrong.
You won't be Johnny Dollar.
That's right. I'll be a Johnny Dollar. And that ain't no happen.
This is a stepping stone, you know. It's a stepping stone, you know, and I hate to see it close up because it's gonna hurt a lot of people.
And what have you been doing?
Selling records. I brought jazz to Maxwell Street. I had blues all the time, so I brought jazz down.
So we've been doing this like, one of my boss said he was working here like for 19 years, and I was working here like for a year or so. And over here we doing X-ray movies too.
Right here? So what are you gonna do when this closes down? You got another job lined up, or?
Try to work at Buc-ee's or Wendy's, something like that.
Do you go to school? What grade are you in?
Ninth.
Ninth grade. Do you go all the time?
School every day.
Yeah. Just a weekend job for you?
I work every day after school too.
To me, it's a matter of having and not having. To me, I work on a low-paid job, and I use this to fill in the gaps.
I'm going to walk around, say goodbye to my friends, and God knows if I'll ever see them again. I don't ever think it'll be another Maxwell Street. All different people, walks of life. And we've had a lot of people out here. A lot of people out here. You wouldn't believe the people you meet. Politicians, movie stars came out here. Everybody came out here. This is Maxwell Street. Had a wonderful time. That's about all I can tell you guys.
Thanks a lot, Frank.
And it's nice talking to you guys.
Well, what we do is sell tires, hubcaps, and rims. The artists, you got to get out here and talk to the people and pull them in.
How do you do that?
How do you do it? You sit down and you say, we got tires, hubcaps, rims, batteries, advice, information, direction, suggestions, ideas, a dog. Anything that you think they might want to buy, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and see, we started doing this because, like, we lost no one had jobs, so we had to create jobs. And now they're trying to take that. See, it's just like this here. Watch here. Hey, get that cap. We got tires, hubcaps.
We must provide the opportunity for every citizen to have decent housing. We must have slum clearance. While we are clearing the slums, we must prevent the spread of blight into the other neighborhoods.
Mayor Daley, the father, power was important to him. He had to have control of the city. Politically, he was the big boss. He really was. But what he didn't have in the early years of his administration was the friendly welcoming of the businessmen downtown. And he was always isolated. They always made fun of how he spoke. He, like his son misspeaks too. And the father was these them, those guys. James Downs, the man I mentioned before, saw that they could bring the Near West Side closer to the Loop by expanding and began to make overtures to Daley. So Daley then was accepted by the businessmen.
Local businesses and residents around Maxwell Street began to worry that UIC would soon encroach into their neighborhood. In 1961, UIC President David Henry wrote a letter to the city's Planning and Housing Committee, assuring them that UIC had no plans to expand south of Roosevelt Road. But UIC expanded far beyond their original promise, displacing thousands of poor people and minority businesses.
This area was always seen as part of the university redevelopment. Ever since the university's inception back in the 1960s, the push into the South Campus would be the last kind of frontier for the University of Illinois.
In the mindset of some city officials, Maxwell Street was an underused area. Developing this near downtown neighborhood could only increase the city's tax base. On the surface, this makes perfect economic sense. The problem is that a lot of people feel that Maxwell Street could have been preserved even with UIC's campus expansion. This area had served poor and middle-class people in Chicago for over 100 years and was an historic landmark. Destroying it meant more than just losing a bunch of old buildings. It meant losing a way of life.
The problem of Maxwell Street is that you have a large group of people, mostly poor and minority people, who are suffering very hard times in this inner city economy, and they're trying to escape from poverty by developing small businesses and earning some extra income on Sunday. And two big institutions, the University of Illinois at Chicago and Mayor Daley's City of Chicago, the government of the City of Chicago, want to shut them down. And they want to shut them down because they want to accelerate gentrification in the area, and they don't care who they hurt as long as they have no political power, and these people have no clout, so they're suffering the ravages of land grabs by the university and the city.
You know, cities change, cities grow. People can disagree about what is the appropriate way to preserve, but also appropriate ways to reuse. And if you want to use the term urban renewal, you know, what are the appropriate ways of doing that? And obviously, other groups had serious disagreements with the university and the city about what that approach should be.
One prominent former UIC official said off the record that one of the main reasons UIC wanted Maxwell Street gone was because of the persistent complaints by students' parents who visited the campus. In his words, parents often complained that as they were driving through the intersection of Maxwell and Halsted on their way to the university, they were often solicited by street vendors peddling porno movies. It became an intolerable situation. Certainly not the image UIC wanted to portray to parents.
UIC wanted the porn vendors here so they could use that as an argument why they had to get rid of the neighborhood. It's not rocket science. It's very easy to use law enforcement to get rid of street vendors if they wanted to. So they could have given tickets with high fines, arrest people who are selling those porno tapes in the street, but they never did that because they really wanted them there.
Many claimed that the city withheld garbage pickup services in the neighborhood in order to make the area become more blighted and justify tearing it down.
See, all the rubbish and stuff you see in the streets is it's really not the fault of the people, it's the fault of the city. They gave orders not to clean up the streets. This has been going on for 2 years. So this is when people come down and see this, they shouldn't blame the people on the streets, they should blame the city for that. Because we have no pickups. I just wanted to make that clear, whose fault that is. That's the fault of the city, not the fault of the people that's here. Over the years, it has been going down and down and down. They were tearing it down little by little, which evidently was a long planned term for the city and the university, a long planned term to eventually get all this area.
The Maxwell Street Market in its last days was the only formal, official public market that I know of in the world where the municipality that set the market up does not have a market master. The market master is the one who provides supervision and regulates what can occur and not occur there. And the city pulled the market master away, I think, in the 1980s, and they never reappointed one. So the market was operated pure laissez-faire, and if they had a market master there, the market master would have made sure that the garbage got picked up, that there were no porno vendors, that things were much more orderly. But they wanted the market to fall apart in disorganization. To the strength of the market, they managed to manage themselves.
25th Ward Republican Committeeman Ambrosio Medrano believes that gentrifying the area was simply part of the original Chicago 21 plan, drawn up in the 1970s by the late Mayor Daley. This proposal included upscale development of the outer loop area so that downtown corporate executives would have a suitable place to live nearby.
Said, lo and behold, some 30 years later, without any fanfare, without unveiling that type of planned development, it sort of happened on its own, if you will. But I mean, you can see the changes.
Politicians have been blamed for corruption associated with the market, and the city it has been reported that the city was interested in getting rid of the market numerous times over 70 years. The city became very serious about getting rid of the market in the late 1980s, when the University of Illinois at Chicago, really motivated by a need to expand its campus, wanted the space across from Halsted Street. The university had some space across from Halsted, but here were 16 square blocks that were already devoid of buildings. Nothing needed to be demolished in those 16 square blocks that the market occupied. And the university saw that as a perfect opportunity to increase the size of its campus.
Florence Scala has been a social activist on Chicago's Near West Side since the 1960s, when UIC tried to take over the Hull House settlement, a sanctuary built by Jane Addams, devoted to feeding and educating poor people in the area, particularly women and children. Florence became an icon for social change in Chicago and routinely went up against Chicago's political machine to defend the rights of the downtrodden in her neighborhood. Florence endured ridicule, threats, and bombing attempts, orchestrated allegedly by a mob-connected politician looking to silence her.
There was a problem with the politicians who were supporting Daley from this area, the D'Arcos. John D'Arco was the alderman. They placed a bomb, a black powder bomb at the foot of the stairs. I live upstairs, and blew out the steps.
In 1994, when rumors began that the city of Chicago was about to finally sell the Maxwell Street area to UIC, a group called the Maxwell Street Historic Preservation Coalition formed, a loosely organized group of concerned citizens who thought Maxwell Street should somehow be saved. Its members included Laurie Grove, who conducted architectural tours in the area and later co-wrote this book, Chicago's Maxwell Street. Roosevelt University economics professor Steve Balkin, and Alan Mimoser, an urban planner for the state. Opposition to the destruction of Maxwell Street came from all over the world. Many famous people wrote letters to UIC, asking them to preserve the Maxwell Street area. There were protests and songs.
Lord, 'cause you're taking our place away.
In the streets.
Save Maxwell Street! Patronage rules. As long as they can sit there and get their checks, who cares what happens?
I get the best fruits and vegetables at a very reasonable price at Maxwell Street for the Mexican-American community. This is the fastest growing community. Latin community is the fastest growing community in Chicago. The mayor better pay attention or he won't keep getting reelected.
If we lose Maxwell, it's a big loss.
What are we going to be losing?
Jobs, recycling, the little people able to make an honest living.
And this is an area where people feel free to, congregate, socialize, and exchange ideas, but also to make a living. And this is what they want to wipe out.
You ought to leave the fifth floor and come down and talk to the people.
What's your name?
Larry Callahan.
And in City Hall.
They come from my community. They come down there to make a living, to support their children, to be able to do what they think they need to do to earn an honest living.
Former First Ward Alderman Ted Mazzola led the charge to destroy Maxwell Street, and some saw him as the mayor's delegated point man for the job.
His actions show that he was really against the Maxwell Street vendors, and he probably still is, although he puts on the face as if he isn't, but he probably is more for multi-millionaires and gentrification of the community even more.
The argument became so heated in City Hall that Alderman Mazzola grabbed Alderman Watts's microphone while he was giving an impassioned speech, and the two nearly went to blows.
He came over here. I got the mic. Let me speak.
If we cannot have order in the chamber, the police will clear the chamber of the spectators. This is a legislative body. We will have order in this chamber.
My whole thing was I had a right to speak, and it didn't different. If he didn't like it or anyone didn't like it, it didn't matter. But I think that he thought he was superior. He thought he should have pushed anybody around who was saying something maybe against what he believed in. And so I thought that that's what I think what he was doing. But I'm not one easily to be moved. I am not going to be pushed around. I'm over 50 years old, and it's too late for, I'm no little child. So this is to be treated as the right thing to do, and so it was the right thing as far as I was concerned. I would do it again today.
When the dust settled, and after years of resistance by advocates of Chicago's beloved market, the city council finally prevailed. By a unanimous vote, the sale of the land to the university was approved. On August 28, 1994, Maxwell Street took its last breath.
I'm conducting a funeral. This is the last day of the Maxwell Street Market. And I think it deserves better than the rotten treatment it's gotten from Mayor Daley and the University of Illinois. This is a world-class landmark. It's a world-class market. Chicago is a violent, racist city. This is an oasis among that violence and racism. People come together here, and it's passing. It's destroyed by a big city, by a big university, and it need not be that way. Even if they move it, they could still try to replicate it by lowering the fees and increasing the size, but they don't want to replicate it, they want to kill it. And so I'm mourning the passing of the Maxwell Street Market. 130 years has helped a lot of poor people, and they're going to kill it. Needlessly, they're going to kill it. I just wanted to honor it on the last day and give it a little bit of dignity in death. It's helped so many people.
It's a disaster. Yeah. It's a disaster for the poor people because this is the only place they had to go and everything. Now they got no place to go, no place to try to make a few dollars and stuff. And now it's going to raise the crime here on Maxwell Street because the people that usually come down here, they're going to still come, but they'll be doing other things, breaking in stores or whatever, any chance they get.
You know, it keeps us from breaking into houses and, you know, and stealing and robbing like that, you know, so that, you know.
This is a way to keep me from selling drugs because there's not too many jobs out there that I can find right now. So I'd rather do this than to sell drugs because it's keeping me out of trouble.
It's the only job I ever had. And it's just, when they close the streets down, I think that's going to leave me out because I can't move to Canal Street. I can't pick up my bill and take it to Canal Street, so I'll just have to look around and see what's available for me. And at this point, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
The university was not only able to purchase the land area, but also the streets, ensuring that the only way Maxwell Street could survive would be if UIC allowed it to exist on their property. In fact, such a compromise has seemed the logical thing to do for an institution of higher learning.
The university had a perfect opportunity to cooperate with the market, to use the market as a laboratory for students to study ethnic entrepreneurship, to study assimilation, to study household dynamics, but instead they collaborated with the city in the demise of the market, to end the market.
But the university is despicable, you know. If you took that university and just examined what they did and how they operated, they were worse than the gangsters. They were worse because they did this with the shroud of purity. And, you know, the university. Are you against the university? Are you against education? That's what Daley used to say. You're against education.
The Maxwell Street Coalition launched an effort to save Maxwell Street by protecting it as an historic district and filed an application to include it into the National Register of Historic Places. They went to the state's Historic Sites Advisory Council, who also recommended that 36 buildings be preserved. Buildings like this one, where Maury Mage's Sports operated. Jerry's Clothing Store, designed by Jewish architect Henry Dubin, with its intricate terracotta detail on the facade. Allen's Clothing Store, also designed by Dubin. Sandy's, where Justice Arthur Goldberg lived. And the Mad Hatter, where Al Capone used to buy his hats. But the final decision about the historical preservation of the neighborhood rested with William Wheeler, Illinois' historic preservation officer, who had to nominate the neighborhood as an historic district before it could be selected for the National Register. Jimmy Lee Robinson went on an 80-day hunger strike and became a symbol for the personal loss of the market. Finally, Wheeler rejected the Advisory Council's recommendation because of what he termed an irretrievable loss of historic integrity in the area. In other words, too much of the old Maxwell Street had already been destroyed.
Historical integrity is a bogus issue. Very few buildings look the exact same way that they looked 50 or 100 years ago, yet those same historic buildings, if the government or the mayor wants saved, they manage to save them. And consider battlefields. On battlefields, there's no buildings on them at all, but the land that those battlefields were on shows important historical events. And for them to deny the area to be put on the National Register, they're saying that the history of Maxwell Street doesn't count, that the people of Maxwell Street don't count.
In his letter, Wheeler even talked about feelings. Maxwell Street just didn't feel like it used to. The mayor seemed willing to reach a compromise, and in 1998, he convened the Maxwell Street Ad Hoc Advisory Committee to work out a new plan. After 3 meetings, the advisory committee agreed to a design that would save 36 historical buildings in the Maxwell Street neighborhood and integrate them into University Village, a plan called the Decker-Vinci Plan. Mayor Daley supported the Decker-Vinci Plan and, in fact, wrote this letter to Steve Balkin of the Maxwell Street Coalition. The mayor's own son, Patrick, even offered his own version of an historic Maxwell Street, saving 22 original buildings. It seemed evident that Daley's wanted some kind of historic preservation of the area. However, in August of 1998, UIC reneged on their compromise with the advisory committee and decided they would tear down as they wished.
I'm sorry, I have to say that I just don't believe that really neat story about how they tried and then they didn't win. Can you imagine Daley not winning on something he really wanted to do? Even with the university, I can't imagine that.
Well, I think most people in Chicago acknowledge that the mayor has ideas of how he thinks the city should be. And he ultimately is the final decision maker.
They're such liars. I can't believe. I mean, he could come with a rosary in his hand, and I wouldn't believe him. He probably did it so that he'd be able to say, "We tried," knowing that he wasn't going to fight for it.
Nearby, other important buildings were in the crosshairs of UIC. Gethsemane Baptist Church, which was originally built as a Jewish synagogue in 1863, and St. Francis of Assisi, serving a congregation of over 500 Latino Catholics in Chicago. Although a few of the original building facades along Halsted and Maxwell Streets were preserved by UIC, along with the famous Maxwell Street Police Station, which appeared in the Hill Street Blues television series, the rest of it was demolished.
So basically, it's a half and half deal. So if you preserve an old building and it's done right without gilding the lily, as they say, then it's about half the cost of building new. And certainly far superior than the plan that was finally worked out that includes all these vacant storefronts on Maxwell Street.
Saving facades is not preservation. For the same reason a cubic zirconia is not a diamond, Formica is not real wood, and Disney World is not the real world. They took off 13 facades of the original buildings and saved them while they built this area. And then they put them back up, slapped them back up on parking structures and the like to give the semblance of real buildings, but they really are not. It's almost like a monopoly board.
Probably the cost of disassembling the fronts of the buildings on Maxwell Street would have been on par with renovating the whole building.
They've created virtually a film set or a Disney's Main Street. And the word facade, what we have always said is that it connotes falseness and it's fake. Even the word facade it means that they are fake. They're empty, they're false. And the other connotation of the word facade is that you're hiding something, that it's something that you put up to hide something else. In this case, the ugly truth that the university and the city don't really care about the history of this place.
Facades are everywhere. There are acres of underutilized land on the UIC campus, like this playing field, or this vast single-level parking lot. Practical if the school were in the suburbs, but not here near downtown, where land values are highest. But this isn't a result of incompetence. It's a practice called land banking, holding on to land for future development or profit. In this case, these tracts are disguised to look like something integral to a benevolent university, not a profiteering developer. UIC spokesman Mark Rosati said that UIC purchased the central area of the market where now sits an unused athletic field for $6 million. The stores along Halsted and Maxwell Streets, places like Nate's Deli and Jim's Original, were purchased directly from the store owners for a total of $28 million. That's a total of $34 million for 54 acres of real estate bordering downtown Chicago, streets included.
Eminent domain's a power that the state has. And the state can give that power to entities, to institutions. In this case, the state gave the power to UIC to take over property. Now they have to give a fair price for the property. UIC at first wanted a quick take power, where they would have the ability, the right to take over properties very quickly with very little litigation around it. However, the governor at that time insisted that they not be given the quick take, and so fortunately that slowed UIC down quite a bit.
Nate Duncan says that through the use of eminent domain, the city of Chicago forced him to sell his property to UIC for $114,000. When he initially refused to sell, the city put up a police barricade in front of his store, which stopped his business and forced him to leave.
They wrapped this place in a discourse of dirt and rubbish, and that it was a place that needed to be cleaned up and swept up. It's a very seductive and attractive concept. People like cleanliness and orderliness. Everyone likes that. But what they don't see is that it really means sweeping away people and businesses and activity that went on here. So yeah, there was a definite effort to remove certain kinds of people from the area.
The gentrification of Maxwell Street is old-fashioned urban renewal. And old-fashioned urban renewal was really Negro removal. And the reason the university was located in its original spot was to be a barrier between the blacks on the west side and the Loop. The Loop merchants and the mayor at the time, the mayor's father, Richard J. Daley, felt that blacks were getting too close to the Loop, and he wanted to put a barrier to keep them away, and that was the UIC campus.
While we are clearing the slums, we must prevent the spread of blight into the other neighborhoods.
And the expansion into Maxwell Street is just a continuation of this Negro removal project of the Daley dynasty.
Well, there is no doubt that the Republican DuPage County leadership of the University of Illinois at Chicago were afraid of black people. They were just plain afraid of them. I know one of the architects that was a major planner, and for years I've been coming to Maxwell Street. I took my daughter down here. It's a great place. It's a great place of diversity. You mix up with everybody. There's every color in the world, but there's only one color. There's green, and that makes it's a friendly color. Everybody can deal with it. But those that didn't ever go to the market, and those that went to Hinsdale and Naperville and farther west, when they see the blacks down here, they were nervous. They made them. The architect planner says, I said, I brought my daughter down. I would never take my daughter down there. Oh, how could you do that? So these guys were, they were, racially challenged, let me say that.
Allegations of racism are not unfounded. The University of Illinois, UIC's parent institution, has been embroiled in controversy for years over their sports mascot, Chief Alenowek, a student who dresses in buckskins and dances at halftimes during their home football and basketball games. While UIC staunchly defends what they call their 75-year-old tradition, they had no problem destroying the over 100-year tradition of this proud neighborhood they built upon. Despite the fact they weren't required by law to do so, UIC did provide local residents and business owners with financial assistance to help them make a move elsewhere. residents received up to $1,000 per household, and business owners received up to $20,000. UIC contracted the services of development firm Mesereau Stein. Their job was to plan and build the entire University Village project. After the sale of the Maxwell Street neighborhood was completed in 1994, Alderman Mazzola left politics and returned to his real estate business, Near West Realty, which later became New West Realty. Mesereau Stein, headed by Dick Stein, was designated by UIC to work with fellow developers Mike Marchese and Bill Cellini. They then awarded Mazzola the exclusive contract to sell 850 private condominiums and townhouses, a reported value of well over $12 million. This private development utilized approximately 2/3 of the land purchased by UIC. Developers Stein and Cellini had direct links to the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency. Both of their wives were Board of Trustee members when William Wheeler rejected the proposal to save some of the Maxwell Street buildings as historic sites. One of them, Julie Cellini, was and is the chairperson of this organization. Bridget Lamont has been in Illinois government since 1979 and is now in charge of the state's entire $50 billion budget. She is married to Thomas Lamont, who is a University of Illinois trustee. He also works in Illinois government on the Board of Education and was the state's representative for public universities. But these kinds of conflicts of interest happen all the time. Richard Friedman, an expert in eminent domain law, was hired by UIC to condemn Maxwell Street. Friedman also happens to be the general counsel of the Landmarks Preservation Council of Illinois, the largest and oldest preservation group in the state. That's like being the prosecutor and defender in the same trial. And why would a preservation group want to be associated with a lawyer who helped obliterate one of the greatest open-air markets in American history? Friedman touts his expertise on his firm's website, citing both eminent domain and preservation law as his specialty. Preservation in Illinois, it seems, is a thing of the past. Mr. Mazzola has said that he resents the insinuation that he led the fight in City Hall to close down Maxwell Street in the hopes of one day gaining a profitable payoff. He claims that because he was a real estate entrepreneur long before his stint as a four-year alderman, there is nothing shady about him returning to his business after serving his term as alderman. The producers of this documentary contacted New West Realty several times and attempted to speak to Mr. Mazzola on camera about this, but they were not granted an interview. Danny Chun, the interim public relations director for UIC at the time of the development, says that selling private homes on university property was essential for UIC to make a profit and pay for the development of the campus.
To finance the other parts of the project, because this was a public-private partnership, to make the financing work, that's where the condos and the townhomes came in. So to make the project financially feasible, there was that private component.
UIC spokesman Mark Rosati said that UIC's goal is to have at least 25% of their student body living on campus, but so far they've only reached 13%. 2 dormitories were built, housing a total of 800 students. One of the dorms had to be closed for a year because of water and mold damage, just 3 years after it had been assembled. A third dorm is expected for the fall of 2007.
I'm an engineer, I'm a builder, and the buildings that they put up were amazingly involved and intricate beyond necessity. They were designed by people that really don't know how to make a building work. So somebody out there thought that they could build something that would be cheap and be slick and be fast put up, and they're paying for it now.
Today, the UIC campus has more than 145,000 alumni, and most live and work in the city. The UIC student body routinely ranks among the nation's most diverse, and many are the children of the same immigrants who settled in the Maxwell Street neighborhood and made it an ethnic melting pot. UIC ranks 47th in the nation in federally funded research, one of the best measures of faculty excellence and productivity. The University Village development promises to generate $1.2 billion in economic activity in the area. By most accounts, UIC is one of Chicago's greatest assets. Along East Maxwell Street now stand statues and kiosks depicting the old Maxwell Street Market, a surreal tribute to the thriving market where an average of 20,000 people gathered every Sunday.
This is where the blues were born. This is where I was telling my daughter where I was coming today, and I thought I'd like to bring her, but what am I going to show her? I mean, it's not. It's like going on one of those Chicago ghost tours where you drive around here to this Valentine's Day Massacre was, and that's what Maxwell Street's going to be like. It's Chicago's going to be like. It's going to be here's where something was.
The university was just not able to control this area, to control the spontaneous energy of Maxwell Street, and that's why it was taken away. And then this glossy, photogenic development just placed on top of it.
Well, I woke up this morning, looked all around. I was looking for my baby. She can't be found. Well, woke up this morning and I looked all around. Well, I was looking for my baby. You know she can't be found. Well,
and what about the intangible costs of losing an unregulated open-air space like the original Maxwell Street? While the debate was going on about whether or not Maxwell Street would be preserved or torn down, John McCarran of the Chicago Tribune wrote, "Here would be some place in a cityscape fast becoming no place." In his view, Chicago, like most cities across the country, is on a track toward gentrification at the expense of losing our neighborhoods and historic places that make us who we are.
That's what's happening in the world today. Gentrification itself. See, in the old days, you knew what, if you took a train before airplane travel, when you got off, you knew the city you were in. There were landmarks. You could tell this is Pittsburgh, this is St. Louis, this is Chicago. Today,
in his book, The Great Good Place, sociologist Ray Oldenburg describes what he calls third places, public gathering places where people can interact with each other, places that give neighbors a sense of belonging in their community. Oldenburg says that third places are almost as important as first places, the home, because they promote social harmony and networks among neighbors. Third places are just informal gathering spots, possessing a lighthearted atmosphere where it's easy to mingle and usually free.
Everybody's laughing out here. If you see it, they're laughing and they're shopping. No problems, no incidents. And the blues bands, they're out there dancing out there in the vacant lots. It's gorgeous. It's just something that's amusement that you don't have to pay to come in to see it. And don't forget, we only have 2 policemen airing the streets. You got 20,000 people here, and there's only 2 policemen, and there's very few incidents. It should only be like that all over the city, that 2 policemen can protect 20,000 people without there's very few incidents. I know because I'm here, I see it.
It's a way of gathering together people, and being simple. It's very, very nice. I like people, I like the simple style of life.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have to learn a lot from these people.
Yes.
But more and more, third places like the corner mom-and-pop grocery store or a local square where everyone hangs out have either fallen away to urban renewal or they've become so regulated any sense of comfort and freedom is missing. In most city and suburban areas, people need cars to go anywhere. For the elderly and poor, the 2 groups who benefit most from third places, they become even more isolated and powerless. When third places disappear, certain kinds of opportunities and experiences are lost.
Let me sit down and blow my horn. Get to think about my baby. I'm all alone. Well, when you wanna see me, sit down and blow my horn. Well, I'm looking for my baby. You know I'm all alone. right? You better know it.
A new location for the market was designated just 4 blocks east of the Maxwell Street neighborhood. This strip along Canal Street is about 1/3 the size of the old market, with about 1/3 the number of vendors who were at Maxwell Street. Here, all the vendors must pay license fees, and the novelty of the old, unregulated market is gone.
As a matter of fact, I get people that ask me, you still have Maxwell Street down there that moved out many, many years ago? You have to tell them, no, there is no more Maxwell Street. That place that they call Maxwell Street is not Maxwell Street. And anybody that ever been down to Maxwell Street knows that.
But some feel that it's cleaner and safer and will ultimately attract a more mainstream crowd. Vendors must pay $35 a day to sell their goods, which prohibits most of the old vendors from participating, the very people who created this engine of enterprise.
$5. I need the money, bad.
Jim's Original moved a few blocks northeast of the old market, and the Maxwell Street Express, run by Joe's cousin, Atzo, who also operated in the old neighborhood, landed 1 block south of Jim's. The two cousins have been intense rivals for many years.
People are more used to going over there since we were always like a north of competitors, and now we switch positions. But people eventually are catching up. I notice a lot of customers are coming back.
The latest proposal by the city is to move the market again in 2007, this time a few blocks west to Des Plaines Avenue.
About 6 months ago, after I found out this, I said, well, let's make this a permanent place. Let's celebrate the new market and have this outdoor plaza, which would close part of Polk Street, and have a grounds for blues stage, have a place to meet, maybe some of the more boutique and the smaller vendors, push carts, kind of bring out a little bit of the old flavor of the push cart kind of atmosphere of the old market. This will be something exciting, and it'll be something that'll live and be useful beyond Sundays when the market's generally open. And so we're hoping it'll go forth.
For this, and this, and this, what was lost was one of the most interesting and unique places in the world, where an international music revolution was born. For over 100 years, the Maxwell Street Market served poor people in Chicago, where those living on the margins could make ends meet. But in the end, its destruction served only the wealthy.
Power was important. The mayor ultimately is the final decision maker.
Negro removal project.
They were worse than the gangsters. Gentrification itself.
On the surface, it was a seedy urban ghetto, a safe harbor for thieves. But for those who knew it, Maxwell Street was a haven, a friendly gathering place where any prejudices people had were set aside, and the only color that mattered was green. Most people believe the new market will never be anything like the original Maxwell Street. But here in this new market, where Latinos are the dominant ethnic group, people still have a free and friendly place where they can mingle and find a bargain. There are still possibilities for entrepreneurship and blending of cultures.
The blues is my medicine. It's my medicine.
It is your medicine?
Yes. I come into work. I come in tired. This is for me. It's very good. Listen to music.
Yeah.
This is. Oh man.
There's a blues stage on the south end of the market for regulars like Piano C. Red, who performed there before he was shot in the back during a carjacking and paralyzed.
Child, you just don't know how you make me feel.
And Frank Scott Jr., who embodies the Maxwell Street tradition of musical innovation with his blues keys. And 7-year-old prodigy Max Lulich, who plays gypsy music, recreating the spirit of the old market where gypsies were common. His name even belongs here. Max was born in a prison hospital shortly after his mother was incarcerated. Gary, Max's father, took on the responsibility of raising him and started playing classical music near Max's crib. The child began taking violin lessons when he was 2, improvising with a cardboard violin. The old Maxwell Street Market may be gone, but its spirit cannot be denied. If given a chance by the city, there is the promise that the soul of this magical place will live on, not only in blues, but in Brahms.
Will you please remember me? We never meet again. Will you please remember me? I'll always be your friend. I wanna go back home.
And so may God bless you all. And it's nice talking to you.